Can a camera really change the way you see the world around you? That's a question that sounds almost naive, until you realize how easy it is to stop truly looking. When I was asked by the local tourism board of East Belgium to capture the High Fens nature reserve, one of Belgium's most mysterious and fragile landscapes throughout all seasons, I thought I knew what I was getting into. It's a place I've known all my life. I've walked its boardwalks, stood in its fog, watched the heather bloom and the snow erase every trace of color. It's a place I've admired, photographed and passed through countless times. But this time, it was different. The project wasn't about simply showing what the High Fens look like. It was about conveying what it feels like to be there. To translate the silence, the wind, the endless shades of grey and gold. To create images that don't just describe a place, but invited people to feel it. At first, I approached it like any other assignment. I made lists, checked maps, planned light and weather, looked for compositions, you name it. But very quickly, I realized that this place doesn't follow your plans. You can't schedule beauty here. You can't tell the fog when to lift or ask the light to wait until you're ready. And that's when something shifted. Instead of trying to control the outcome, I started to surrender to it. I began to slow down, to visit without an agenda, to stand still longer than felt productive. Some days, I came back with nothing. And other days with a single frame that felt like a secret whispered by the land itself. The High Fens became more than a location. They became a teacher. They taught me patience and humility, and reminded me that beauty doesn't shout for your attention. It waits quietly until you're present enough to notice it. And somewhere in that process, something else changed too. I started to see differently. To notice how the same patch of grass could look completely new each time I returned. To feel how light moves, how it transforms the things we walk past every day. That's when I realized this project wasn't just about documenting a landscape. It was actually teaching me how to see again, how to reconnect with the act of noticing. The one thing that photography, at its core, is really about. When you spend enough time in a place like the High Fens, you realize that light behaves differently here. It moves slowly, quietly. Sometimes it lingers and sometimes it vanishes before you're ready. The fog wraps around trees, frost clings to the wood, colors fade and return in ways that never repeat. Everything happens on its own time, and all you can do is be there when it does. At first, I treated this project like any other, but this landscape doesn't care for plans, and that realization changed everything. I began to visit without expectation, to stay longer than felt productive, to wait not for what I wanted to see, but for what was already happening. the High Fens taught me patience. They taught me to surrender control, and in that stillness, I started noticing the smallest things. The rhythm of grass in the wind, the sound of water under the ice, the slow shift of shadow across stone. I wasn't just photographing anymore, I was listening. And that rhythm followed me everywhere. Into commercial shoots, travels, portraits, daily life. Even in busy environments, kitchens, streets, workshops, I began to see differently. I stopped chasing moments and I started waiting for them. I learned to trust silence, to let gestures appear instead of directing, to notice before I react. Sometimes that meant capturing a friend mid-laughter or a stranger in the crazy chaos of a Moroccan street. Sometimes it meant not taking a photo at all, just being there, aware, present. The more I slowed down, the more I realized photography isn't about control. It's about attention, the kind that can't be rushed. The best moments rarely announce themselves. They unfold when you give them time. And somewhere along the way, I realized slowing down isn't just a way to shoot. It's a way to live. Slowing down changes how you see, but it also changes what you see. When I stopped chasing moments, I began to notice the smallest things. Details for many years I would have just simply walked past, suddenly started to speak. I used to think of detail as a technical thing, sharpness, clarity, resolution. But it's not about that. Detail isn't just something you capture, it's something you interpret. It's not about showing everything. It's about deciding what to hold on to and what to let go. There's a quiet kind of truth that lives inside imperfection, in a blurred frame that carries motion, in grain that feels like memory, in light that burns a little too bright, or shadows that hide what doesn't need to be seen. Sometimes losing detail gives the image more weight, because what remains is feeling, not information. And that realization changed the way I edit too. I started leaning into imperfection, adding grain or allowing a bit of softness, a trace of motion, the texture of air itself. I began to choose form over fidelity, to let the image breathe, to let it feel human. The photographs that stay with me are never the perfect ones. They're the ones that make me remember what it felt like to be there, the sound, the weather, the person beside me. They carry atmosphere, not accuracy. And I think that's what real detail is. Not what you can see, but what you can sense. It's the echo of a place or a person that stays long after you've looked away. And maybe that's why, over time, I found myself turning more towards people, because faces, gestures, small moments, they all carry that same kind of imperfection that makes something real. You can't retouch a moment of honesty. You can only notice it, hold it for a second, and then let it go. For most of my career, I considered myself a landscape photographer. I was drawn to silence, scale, weather, the kind of moments where nature becomes the subject and everything else just falls away. People were never really part of that story. But somewhere along the way, that changed. And it didn't happen through a conscious decision, it just happened naturally. During the High Fens project, I had to include people to show how the landscape was experienced. I simply set a scene and waited, and the most honest moments always arrived unannounced. A glance, a movement, a hesitation that somehow said more than an instruction could. That small shift, letting things unfold instead of orchestrating them, opened a completely new world for me. It made me realize that photographing people isn't so different from photographing nature. Both are about presence and both require patience. Both reveal something true when you stop trying to make them perfect. After that, I started noticing these same moments everywhere, not just in projects, but in everyday life. Friends, strangers, small interactions, gestures that said more than words ever could. These small, fleeting details felt as meaningful as any mountain vista I'd ever shot. Because you can't fake presence. When someone forgets the camera, something real appears. And once you've seen that, you start looking for it everywhere. Whether it's in a portrait, on assignment, or a quiet moment with friends, I try to do the same thing. Observe first, react later. And the most powerful images aren't created, they find you. And maybe that's the real work of photography. To notice. To recognize that truth isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, almost invisible, hiding in the space between two breaths. After a while, you start to realize that every photograph says as much about you as it does about what's in front of the lens. Each frame is a reflection, not just of what you see, but of how you were seeing. And when I look back at my work now, I can almost trace my own state of mind. The restless images, the quiet ones, the moments where I was chasing something, and then the ones where I finally stopped running. My photographs have become a record of that rhythm, my rhythm. There are days when I shoot a lot, chasing ideas, experimenting, trying to push something new. And then there are days when I don't touch the camera at all. And I've learned to be fine with both, because creativity doesn't live in constant output, it lives in rhythm. And photography is a way of showing you that rhythm, when to move and when to stop. And over time, I started recognizing patterns, reoccurring colors, distances, moods. Even when the subjects changed completely, something of me stayed visible in every frame. And at some point, I realized I wasn't just documenting the world, I was actually documenting how I moved through it. And that realization made me look at my archive differently. Each image is a small record of who I was at that time. Not just geographically, but emotionally. The foggy landscape, the blurred portraits, the moments of stillness. They're all part of a conversation I've been having with myself for years. The archive became a quiet conversation, with time, with memory, with myself. Each image a question, a reminder, a fragment of who I was in that moment. And maybe that's the greatest gift of this craft. Not the recognition, not the perfect shot, but the ability to look back and see your own evolution. And realize you weren't just photographing the world, you were learning how to understand it and yourself one frame at a time. Coming home after long projects or travels always feels different now. For years, I thought I had to go far to find inspiration, to chase something new, something unfamiliar enough to make me pay attention again. But over the past few years, I've realized that everything I was searching for out there also exists right here. The same quiet transitions, the same sense of wonder if I'm willing to notice it. The forests, the fog, the wooden walls of the wolf shack, even the way the light falls through the kitchen window. These things I once took for granted now feel like endless stories waiting to be told. I used to look at home as a place to rest between projects. Now it's become a place to create, to observe, to reconnect. And when you stop expecting beauty to come from somewhere else, you start noticing it everywhere. In a walk through my village on a cold morning, in the color of the fields changing with the seasons, in friends dropping by, conversations around a table, the rhythm of ordinary days. The familiar isn't boring, it's layered. It's full of quiet details that only reveal themselves when you've been away long enough to forget them. And when you come back, you see differently. The light feels softer, the air feels heavier. It's the same place, but you've changed. And that changes everything. And that's what home has become for me. Not a pause between adventures, but the backdrop to a slower, more intentional way of living and creating. A reminder that you don't need to travel far to feel moved. In a way, I think all photographers turn home eventually. Not necessarily to a place, but to a way of seeing that feels honest. And for me, that's here in East Belgium, surrounded by fog, forests, and the familiar. It's where everything I've learned about patience, light, and presence continue to unfold quietly every day. After all the places, projects, and people, what stays with me aren't the images themselves. It's the moments that shape them, the fog lifting just as I was about to pack up, a laugh between friends that broke the silence, a gesture I almost missed. Photography has given me thousands of frames, but the real value lies between them, in the rhythm they've created. A rhythm of noticing, of pausing, of being fully present for a fraction of a second. Over the years, I've learned that I don't take photographs to collect memories. I take them to understand them. Each image is a small attempt to make sense of a feeling, to translate something fleeting into something I can hold, even briefly. And maybe that's what remains. The process itself. The act of looking, of learning, of returning. Because no matter where I go, whether it's a distant landscape, a busy street, or my own backyard, I'm still chasing the same thing. That split second where everything feels connected. You know, the world still moves fast. Deadlines still exist. There are still shoots that demand precision and control. But beneath all that, there's a quieter layer. The one that keeps me grounded. It's the awareness that photography isn't about stopping time. It's about being in it. And when I look back at everything I've created, the landscapes, the portraits, the blurred, imperfect frames, I don't see perfection. I see a record of how I've learned to see. Not completely, not always clearly, but honestly. And that's what remains. A way of seeing that keeps evolving. Slowly, quietly, one frame at a time. I guess this ended up being really a different kind of video from my usual stuff. I hope you still found it inspiring and not too boring. I really wanted to make a review of my camera, of my medium format Fujifilm camera, and when I started writing the script, this is what it ended up being. It transformed more and more into something philosophical and something more about my way of thinking about a camera and what it does for me, and especially this camera. All the photos you've seen in this video were captured with that camera, and that's about as much of a review as you will get from me. I love the camera, it has changed the way I see the world, so to answer that question of the video, yes, it can change the way you see the world. Now, any camera can do that, so please don't go out and buy a Fujifilm for that. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. I read all the comments and I will try to reply to everyone and everything. And maybe we can do more of this kind of video in the future. I'd love to know what you think. And yeah, see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.